It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. With me is Erez Borowski and Bill Close. Where are you guys with?
Ooh, the CannaMation Inc. And
What is CannaMation Inc.?
we are automation specialists. We have a background in robotics and automating facilities.
Great. Anything in particular that you guys are automating, like pre-rolls or packaging, or what's your specialty? There's a lot of automation. There's not enough, in my opinion, but it is becoming more and more normalized. So what do you guys specifically specialize in?
So we're focusing on our initial into the marketplace pre-roll machine, one that focuses on where others fail. So we decided to make a better mousetrap where it is a true automation.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I have seen people use grinders, like beverage grinders for ice cubes, and then there's 18 people that use that to make pre-rolls. Not a very ideal lineup to use, like the knock box from Futurola that typically at the base there's a gap there, and so there's all of these issues as you're doing it from the grind down to the finish. What makes your product a replacement to this 18-person lineup with a grinder, an improper grinder?
Right. You hit the nail right square in the head. We looked at the entire process and did kind of a process mapping of what each step is required to meet to get the job done, and what are the industry standards and what are the compliance standards, and then we started attacking that at each key spot. So through pre-rolls, there are so many little nuances that get left out. And one of the big constraints in the pre-roll industry is making the weights that are out there. And so most of the big houses that are running pre-rolls, they're faced with how much material are they going to give away. And if you're trying to make a 1 gram or a half gram, do you have to go 1 1/4 gram to be in compliance? Or do you have to go 3/4 for a half to be in compliance? So when you start to get into the metrics of weight and processability, then every step on a pre-roll machine gets more and more critical. So drawing from our background of manufacturing and robotics, we started attacking it one step at a time and mapped out what a solution for each step would be, and then how to make that integratable into somebody's operation who, after we sell, we're not going to be there, so they're going to have to do their adjustments. If they want to jump from a dog walker to a gram cone or a 1.5 gram cone, I mean, that should not be an act of God or having lightning strike. They should be able to program that recipe and go. And that's really where we focus on how to make their experience the experience they're seeking and not what they're faced with today.
Mm-hmm. A true plug and play, not what's being offered sometimes right now where they say, oh, you just dial in the recipe and it automatically does that. I've seen where that's said, but it's not true. What we've decided is, because CapEx and OpEx are being squeezed so hard, we want to make it simple and efficient for them to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the biggest OpEx is runtime, uptime. What good is it to do 3,000 cones an hour and run for 10 minutes and fix for 50, right? And when you look at a more steady process and then integrate that process in front of it and behind it, because after it comes off a cone machine, it should be going straight into packaging. It should not be secondary or third-dairy handling. It should go directly to the packaging, and that's the daisy chain we're putting together, and very, very happy with what we see. And of course, that's from other industries, because labor is a cost. It's not going to go away, right. And labor causes debt, and debt eats first in every business.
Right. Yeah, and downtime doesn't pay. So when I spoke to the individual from Swisher Sweet in Virginia with their facility, when they have to move one of their cigar rolling machines, they have downtime for a week. And so that's no good for anybody. in the scenario where there's filling and some of the it's overtopped or whatever, in Canada they have 0 gram missing, whatever, you know what I mean? It has to be 100% accountable.
Right.
And so you see a lot of these machines online, on YouTube, whatever, and there's like cannabis dust just everywhere. And if you sweep that up, that adds up. And so some of these machines are, I think, for looks. I've smoked some of them. I'm not a fan. I don't think that a lot of these guys are doing the industry a lot of favors. It's kind of, they see a need and they're filling it, but they're not really asking what the consumer wants. Right. What makes you guys different from that regard? Have you gone out, talked to people? Have you designed a particular dog walker? I know that those really small quarter grams are really popular. What differentiates you guys from all the other manufacturers?
You really stepped right on one of the primal thoughts that we had going into this, because this is a Me Too business when we started it, right? Because there's machinery out there. So we said, how do we get into an established Me Too business? And then we had a couple glasses of whiskey and a chuckle and said, well, there is so much game left on the table and stuff gone to the floor. And it's interesting you brought up the mess on top, because that drives anybody in any GMP processing crazy. If you weight it and then it's all over the machine, well, your weight's wrong. Right? And B, once it starts to get adulterated by moving around and swept, who knows what's in it, right? And you have a liability with that. So we looked at those points and we said, well, are the current machines modifying their process to absorb a less than desirable flower? And when you start to see what's desirable in the flower, when some of these get nice and sticky, they tend to want to not play with that because it gums up their works. And we've addressed how to handle that. And there's a lot of talk about infusion, which we've got a couple different avenues there that we've explored successfully on which way we can handle that to meet those flavors that are desired out there, how to add the trichomes in that people want, how to make that specific recipe run through the machine. So you've hit ground zero on what's there. The machine builder shouldn't be building the machine for the industry for them. They need to build it for the industry, for the people who are buying the product. And that's the set aside. And we bring that from other industries, other life practices, robotics, injection molding, global markets. I mean, you're focusing on what the outcome is and backing into the solution rather than let the machine drive the limited outcome.
We've learned quite a bit from watching other people and where they have gaps, and their solutions are exactly that, their solutions, not their client solutions. And what we've decided to do is go out, talk to the client, talk about smokability at the end of the day, and how to make a very unique smokability or smoking portion of the end product, how to make that superior. And we think we've done it through applying different methodologies to allow for that to happen.
And the keynote is extremely repeatable, right? Extremely repeatable, because flour, if you take a bucket of ground flour, it's not going to be the same throughout it. It's not homogeneous. And getting it to perform that way through the machine is a very, very delicate operation. But we've found several key elements that are really advantageous, and we're bringing those out.
Okay, that sounds like secret sauce. Maybe you could tell me about some of the issues you've had to work through. Was it the humidity or stickiness factor? Is it high reps and the electrostatic interaction? What are some of the issues that you've had to, what are some of the hurdles you've had to cross?
Great question. There are a lot of variables when you're doing a pre-roll. One is the flour itself. One is the material you're going to use, for instance, cones. A lot of our clients are, surprised that they may have to change their process or their materials to go automated, and we stress that very highly at the beginning because we don't want them to have any surprises or any failures or limited success. We want them to be truly successful. So we've overcome a lot of the variables in our equipment. We have a lot of patent pendings right now, and more specifically, what can we tell them?
Well, there's no secret to the variability and the stickiness of the material and the variabilities in the cones that are out there that you can get. And you know, a huge variable that's really not talked about much is, especially for a house that's doing contract cone filling, right? So they might have 10, 15, or 20 different cone size and recipes in-house. And they get caught in that changeover that you were talking about with the cigar machine. If they're caught in that changeover where they're shutting a machine down for a half a day or 3 or 4 days because of trying to get it off of one size and go to the other, that's just an intolerable amount of time lost in the manufacturing process. You know, so attacking every one of those steps. The material is highly variable, and that's been the fun part and the fun challenge, you know, how it is and how it behaves through process. And how it behaves through process is another key to what you mentioned before about it raining down all over the place. So paying attention to that. We've done a lot of benchtop hand models to validate each step of our thinking so that when we get it all running, there's no surprise. We know the behavior before we see it.
Talk to me a little bit about the future of the machines. Is this going to be a situation that could be at each producer, or can you do mobile processing? I kind of mentioned some of the limitations on the just making sure all the gauges are accurate through transportation, whatever. Do you guys foresee that when we have open borders and we can go from state to state and do mobile processing? Is that something you guys are looking at?
I would say we haven't looked at a model on making that particular machine mobile, because where we envision the true path is dealing with the bigger houses that are going to want this machinery is to integrate their entire downstream. So when it comes off the machine, right straight through packaging. So that doesn't preclude it from being put on wheels. But when you put it on wheels, it's like that cigar machine. You jostle it around and you've got to do a reset. There's certainly nothing foreseeable that would stop that from happening, but that's also a pretty bold statement, right? Because when you jar machinery around, it doesn't like it. So we think the bigger niche is that if the material can cross state borders, then a house that's set up to process for another state is probably going to be in a very advantageous spot. Now, if the material can't cross borders, which we don't know, eventually that's going to happen. We just don't know when, right? So when all the gloves are off and it can move around, then the houses that are established are going to be very lucrative. And another thing we're also conscious of, which everybody with the machinery is when all the states are in this, then some of the bigger companies are going to be looking for getting into it that are currently making cigarettes. And we think that we're going to be poised to be able to give them machinery for that, because the current cigarette machines, we're told, don't know it firsthand, don't run well on cannabis because of the nature of it. I believe it's true, but I don't know it firsthand, and I'm the firsthand information.
So I've spoken with a lot of individuals that manufacture cigars, and that industry, the tobacco industry, is not willing to work with the cannabis industry. Do you guys foresee getting into that, with the cannagars being popular, kind of the opposite of a dog walker,
Right.
a huge 3.5 gram cigar? Is that something that you guys might get into?
We have the ability right now in our design to go up in that 150 millimeter range. but we haven't really chased formal cigar where it's wrapped. But there's certainly no holds barred, because if somebody wants it, we have the ingenuity to figure it out. So, you know, it's really going to be one of those scenarios where somebody says, "Wow, you've solved this. Let's go there." And that's been, I would say, pretty much our life story, because we've been involved in so many product lines firsthand. Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to cover? Anything you want to say, or where can people find you at? What websites or information?
So we're at CannaMationInc.com, and we'll be launching our product very shortly.
Okay. I'm going to have you guys state your name and title for the record.
I'm Bill Close, CTO.
Nurse Borowski, CEO.
And I'm Josh Kincaid, the Talking Hedge, your cannabis business podcast. All right, we're going to wrap this one up. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.